So upcoming Friday nights, me and the degenerate boys that we are, we're coming back with the betting show.
You look at the way he bounces off tacklers, the way that he keeps his eyes downfield, his vision, his ability to find holes, his pass catching ability, right? Because he had.
In my lifetime, I'd put him at probably around the 2 area, with again the only other person up there being King Ricky.
Anthony Richardson or Caleb Williams at the 111.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of BSing Sports, where we do a little BS and we talk a whole lot of sports. I am your host, Ryan J. Swift, on a very, 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 very nerve-wracking Sunday for me. Here with me, as always, is my co-host, James Krogan. I'll remember it one time. I wasn't very confident there. But how you doing, bud?
I'm good, man. The news just released that Debo is allowed to go seek a trade, so I'm kind of intrigued with that.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up too, so I'm glad you did. I'm unsurprised by this. I'm really not. You know, with the drafting of Ricky Pearsall, we talked about it last year when Ricky Pearsall did go to the 49ers. That something was going to have to give there, right? Between McCaffrey, Kittle, Debo, Ayuk. I said Pearsall, a lot of his game, looks like Debo Samuel. So that doesn't surprise me one bit. What does this do for Debo's dynasty value, though?
It all depends on where he goes. If he goes to somebody like the Broncos or the Patriots or something like that are wide receiver needy, and I know the Broncos, Sean Payton talks about having a joker role and needing that joker. He's had many people like Reggie Bush and Alvin Kamara and like that type of player. I know his age isn't there, but I think it can help, if not hinder, where he can be a target hog.
Would you be okay as a Broncos fan if they went out and traded for Debo Samuel?
Oh yeah, give up like a 5th, sure.
Yeah, I feel like it's not going to take much to get Debo. Had a down year last year anyway. Aging, to your point, I think he'll be 30 this season. He's had an injury history in his career, so I think a day 3 pick is probably what it's going to take to get Debo. And I don't know what the money looks like, but I'm sure that his cap hit isn't terrible, but it's probably also not great.
Yeah, and so imagine him going to the Patriots.
I think Cooper Kupp goes to the Patriots.
Yeah, interesting. A bunch of aging players in fantasy football going to different teams. So we will see how this year shakes out.
Yeah, just because teams say they're going to trade somebody or, they've given permission to seek a trade doesn't mean that anybody's actually getting traded.
Yep, true. Very
Nobody's
true.
traded until they're traded. That being said, let's kind of roll into the topic here. So we've got Dynasty offseason running back rankings. Last week we did the quarterbacks. We did top 24. This week we're going to do running backs. Next week we'll probably do wide receivers, and the week after we'll do tight ends. From there we'll roll into the rookie season. We'll have a little bit more information, get a little bit closer to the draft time. Running backs, Jake, you've always, been higher on running backs as a whole than I am. So how did you define your tiers in this one?
Essentially, it's your S tier is the tier. You're not trading those guys. You would need like 3 to 4 first rounders to even move the needle. And at that point, why are you doing that? And then my A tier is these are guys that they're your first running back and you are 100% happy with it. You're good. You're going into this offseason happy with where you're at. And then my B tier, these guys they're aging or like they have no contract or competition really, or they've just always produced. And then my C tier is guys with question marks. You don't know if teams are going to bring them in or if like their age finally catches them. And so like they produce, but they scare me if they're on your team.
I do. I have a D tier, so my S tier the same way. The untouchables, if you will, going to take massive overpays to get those guys off of my hands. I think probably where we differ just from our conversation pre-recording was the A tier. I have an A and a B tier that's probably the same size as just your A tier. I feel like we're at least in parallel as far as how we feel about it, right? Either A or B tier for me. If they're your RB1, you're okay with that. I just do feel like there is a value gap between the guys I have in my A tier as well as the guys that are in my B tier. And, that's just a difference of opinion. My C tier is the veterans that will die on your roster. You will, at this point, never get anything on the trade market that is remotely equivalent to the performance they will provide in your roster. And you're just better off keeping them unless you are like truly just blowing it up and willing to take a discount, sell for some of these guys. These are veterans that should just die on your roster. And then my D tier is guys that will I have a couple guys that could either surge up or surge out. It really all depends. Do they get replaced in the draft? New coaching staffs. There's too many variables, or it's guys where it's like, I need to see this again. So I do have, A or S, A, B, C, D. You only have S, A, B, C. That's fine. Let's get right into it here, Jake. S tier. How many names you got? And what
two.
do you have them in?
Two, and I got Bijan and Gibbs.
You have them like that?
Yep.
Okay. I have them the same way. I will preface that. So last week when we did quarterbacks, I at least tried to rank inside the tiers. This week I didn't do that at all. So it's splitting hairs to me at this point. But is there any particular reason why you have Bijan over Gibbs, or is it just alpha?
Solely because a little guy called David Montgomery, who will be eating in to the shares of Gibbs. And yes, I get it. Gibbs did all this with and without him. He was pretty consistent throughout the entire year. But to me, Bijan, he has Tyler Algier, who is serviceable, but Bijan is the featured back. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And with that offense and what we saw, I think he takes off this next year as well.
So PPR points per game last year, Jahmyr Gibbs 21.3, Bijan Robinson 20.1. I agree with your logic. Again, if I was offered Jahmyr Gibbs straight up for my Bijan Robinson and vice versa, I would probably just keep whatever I have. I don't really see that huge of a difference between the two. But you do at least have a bigger question mark about Gibbs' ceiling with Monty there, with the offensive coordinator leaving. If we're really trying to define a difference between 1 and 2, it's going to take splitting hairs like that to really separate them. But ultimately, like I just said, if you offered me one for the other, I would just keep what I have. I do think that these are the clear-cut 2 best dynasty running backs by a fairly comfortable margin.
And, I mean, splitting hairs, Bijan's about 15 pounds heavier than Gibbs and just more reliable in my eyes.
Just a tad older. I don't know how much older, but just a tad older. Yeah, Bijan's 23, Gibbs is 22. So if you really want to split hairs there.
Right.
All right. A tier. How many names do you have?
Metric fuck ton.
It's like the quarterbacks, right?
I got 9.
Okay. Yeah. Like I said, in the intro, I think this is kind of where our difference is big. I don't think that we're necessarily going to disagree, if that makes any sense. So what names do you have in your A tier?
So I have A-Chain, of course, Jonathan Taylor, Breece Hall, Josh Jacobs, James Cook, Saquon Barkley, my fantasy darling, Bucky Irving, Chuba Hubbard, and Kyron Williams.
Okay, so we have quite a bit of difference there. Not quite a bit of difference. So I don't have Chuba Hubbard that high yet. I do need to see it, a little bit. Although he is not this past season, but the season before that, he was actually pretty serviceable too. So maybe I am just a little too low on Chuba Hubbard. But Yeah, I think that's a really solid A tier. I do have most of those names in there. Between my A and B tier, though, I have a couple extra guys you don't. So, like I said, that's where we, differ. My A tier is Taylor, A-Chain, Barkley, Hall, and I still have McCaffrey in my A tier.
Yeah.
Did you forget him?
I did.
You just left him off entirely?
I did. That's not good.
Do you have any McCaffrey shares anywhere that I can get for the low?
Yeah, right. Well, that makes this way easier. Okay, my B tier got a little bit bigger.
Okay, that's fine. But yeah, I have McCaffrey in my A tier. That might be naive of me, right? He's going into his age 29 season, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is, like, McCaffrey has the highest ceiling, arguably, of any running back on this list. I mean, potentially higher than he's like Gibbs' ceiling with no Monty in Bijan's body. It's like the league winning upside that Christian McCaffrey brings, no matter what offense he's in, is second to none. So that's strictly why I still have him in the A tier. Yes, he's been hurt. I understand that. He did come out and announce the other week that he's like finally healthy. And it sounded like he would have played had the 49ers made the playoffs. So there's no real long lasting effects of his injuries, but that the league winning upside is just, it's too hard to pass up. And if I was a contender, I would gamble on McCaffrey over the guys that I have in my B tier, who are solid players, but do not have the same upside.
Yeah, I feel really bad for Brock Purdy as the human being going into his contract year, and Ayuk goes out season-ending injury. You don't get CMC.
No, Brock Purdy's contract year is this year.
I thought he was.
He's due for an extension, but he has one more season. Yeah.
Okay.
But to be fair, Brock Purdy played pretty well, knowing that he didn't have his left tackle. That Debo had a terrible season. That McCaffrey was out. Ayuk was out.
No, exactly.
Brock Purdy played pretty well.
No, he's a smart guy. He knows where to go with the football. He understands the system. But this isn't a quarterback podcast, so we can move past that.
Hey, it's BSing sports, man. We give a topic and then we just let it ride from there.
Just fucking send it.
The Just Gonna Send It podcast. So yeah, those are all the names that I have in my A. I'll do my B as well because we do have a lot of overlapping names. There is one name that I'm very surprised you left out of here, and I'm curious as to see why. So my B tier is Chase Brown, James Cook, Bucky Irving, Josh Jacobs, Kenneth Walker, and Kyron Williams.
Are you shocked I left Kenneth Walker up there?
No, I'm shocked you left Chase Brown out there because him, James Cook, Bucky Irving, those are all neck and neck to me.
Yeah. I just I'm hesitant. He came on after Zach Moss got hurt. And he's only he was a 5th round pick.
Mm-hmm.
Like, doesn't have the high draft capital. Zach Moss is coming back. This is a loaded running back class. Like, to me, I love what I saw from him. And he's in my B tier, but like, he's not in my A.
He's in my B tier too, but my B tier and A tier is kind of like your A tier. So what number do you have him at? Just curious.
14.
Okay. I have him at 8, but as I prefaced before the show started, I did not rank inside my tiers. I don't really care.
Mm-hmm. If I had to put names,
if I had to pick between Bucky, James Cook, and Chase Brown, I'm probably picking James Cook over those two. But I feel like Ray Davis doesn't provide as much competition as Rachaad White does. And I feel like James Cook being a 2nd round pick in a great offense is a little bit safer than Chase Brown. But and I agree with everything you said about Chase Brown. However, we did see at the end of the season when Chase Brown was hurt that the Bengals offense just did not look the same. So I think that whatever happens in the draft, I don't think the Bengals expend, good draft capital to go get another running back. Maybe they go get somebody that can supplement him on the early downs and kind of take some touches off of him because Chase Brown's a smaller dude. But I just don't see a realm with how the offense looked with Chase Brown out that he's not at least the 1A in that offense.
Well, that's what I'm saying is you could go get Judkins or something, I think, in the third round.
I just don't see – well, first off, I don't think Judkins falls to the third round, but I don't see the Bengals expending – especially with how bad the defense is, I don't see them expending any early draft capital on offensive pieces.
Yeah, I can understand that. But, I mean, you never know. Can't wait for draft. But that's why he's in my B tier now. And so
which is funny because you bring up a bunch of solid points about Chase Brown, and they all the same points apply to Bucky Irving, and yet the Dynasty community views him so much higher from what I've seen than Chase Brown.
Well, that's solely because Rachaad White is inefficient.
But Rachaad White eats into the passing game a lot more than any other running back on Cincinnati's roster, like a lot more.
No, and I get that, but the ceiling that Bucky Irving has, if he is the guy and stays healthy, is way higher than what Rachaad White ever was. I
would agree with that, but is it way higher than Chase Brown?
I think it is, and just solely based off of that offense and what running backs do in that, and not having, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins probably gone, but it's the draft capital. It's the Bucky Irving was a fourth round, right?
Fifth. Same round as Chase Brown, actually.
And I just think Bucky Irving is. I mean, I just love him personally from what I've seen. We know that from a year ago when I was high on him. So,
yeah.
I mean, that was my bold prediction that hit. So, that he would outrush Rachaad White.
Yeah, and you were right about that. And I kind of agree with. I do think that Bucky Irving is going to. How do I word this so it makes sense? I think Bucky Irving is going to be. More of his production will come as a result of the pass game than Chase Brown's. Chase Brown will get handoffs from time to time, and Bucky Irving will too. But we didn't really see that from Bucky Irving until the last 4 weeks of the season. And his production was really the result of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin missing time. That's when he really started to shine and come on because there was nobody else in that offense to produce for them. That being said, I do
agree with you.
I do think they move forward and make him a staple of the offense. I just think that he's probably like a Walmart Jahmyr Gibbs, where Rachaad White's going to do just like what David Montgomery does to Jahmyr Gibbs and just enough to keep eating at the ceiling. If Chase Brown survives the draft, I would probably rather have Chase Brown, especially at cost. If I can get Chase Brown plus anything at all for Bucky Irving, then to me, that's a win.
I do. I'm listening to what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. I'm not saying you're not.
So Rachaad White gets hurt. Does Bucky Irving have a Gibbs type year? Because that's essentially what you're saying is if Zach Moss stayed healthy, does Brown have his year?
I think so.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, there was nothing Zach Moss did that was that impressive anyway. Okay. I mean, I think Chase Brown was destined to take over that backfield regardless. I mean, you could tell because they went out and they made, a small move to try and bring somebody in just to take, some touches off of Chase Brown. And it didn't work out. They still kept giving Chase Brown, here are the snap percentages, right? 80, 87, 83, 81, 83, 93, 98, 81. This is a guy that they put all of their chips into. Is that going to be good for his long-term production at 5'10", 205-ish pounds? Maybe not. But with snap numbers like that, I don't have to question. There's no Rachaad White coming in and taking any, 50 some odd receptions over the course of the year from Chase Brown. He's the dude.
We will see. It's going to be an interesting draft for sure
Yeah.
for the running back class.
Oh yeah, the one thing that I cannot wait for in the NFL draft is all the chaos. Something is going to be chaotic. And
What do you
talk
call?
about,
What do you think?
oh, well, we'll
Yeah.
talk about that rookie season.
Okay.
I've got quite a few absolutely scolding takes right now, but actually one of them was announced this morning, so I won't hold that one back. And I think I talked to you about this on the side. I don't think the Titans aren't drafting a quarterback first overall.
Mm-mm.
They're either drafting Abdul Carter or they're getting a good enough offer that they're moving back.
Dude, what if they move back and get Genty?
I think that'd be stupid.
A generational talent, my guy.
Yeah, but that would suck. That would suck for Ashton Genty. At least in the first year or two.
Yep. I don't know. That's the type of chaos that I would think would happen is, and then you question all of fantasy football. You're like, do you take him at the 101? Like, what?
I saw a mock draft. I think this is even crazier, right? So a lot of people have Genty going to the Cowboys at what do they have, 11 or 12?
Yeah.
I saw them drafting Matthew Golden as the second wide receiver off the board and leaving Ashton Genty on the board at 12. That shit would blow my mind.
But honestly, it wouldn't be stupid of them.
I think it would. I think Golden early mid first round is a reach. I think he's a late first round wide receiver.
Well, taking Golden is questionable, whatever you want to think. But I think you can get, and we'll get into this in later on in the season for rookies, but I think there's plenty of serviceable running backs that you could take in the second round, third round. And so try and upgrade in other areas as an NFL team.
Since we're kind of already on the topic, I have one burning question I was going to save for rookie draft, season.
Uh-huh.
Let's say Ashton Genty goes to the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
That's a terrible first year landing spot for his fantasy production. Omarion Hampton goes to the Chargers. What are you doing in rookie drafts then?
Drafting Hampton.
Yeah, you're 101. You're going to pass slip Genty.
Oh yeah, Hampton's my boy, and that's where my bias comes into play. But that's besides the point.
Oh man, so. Yeah, B tier for me, like I said, Brown, Cook, Irving, Jacobs, Walker, Williams. I do understand the fade for Kenneth Walker. I myself, for the last couple of years have not been particularly high as the market on Kenneth Walker, but I think he's reached the point now where he's a good buy. Because at the end of the day, the Seattle Seahawks love Kenneth Walker. They brought in Zach Charbonnet, and Kenneth Walker was still, the guy. And then this past year, Kenneth Walker was still the guy in a completely different offense that was supposed to be pass heavy going into the season. And even when he was, battling injury, he was still the guy. Like it took Kenneth Walker literally going to IR for Zach Charbonnet to become the dude. So,
but Zach Charbonnet still outproduced him. Zach Charbonnet stayed healthy.
Well, Zach Charbonnet rode the bench for most of the year.
I mean, it's the injury concerns about Walker that...
Sure. I understand the injury concerns, but I don't think you understand what I'm saying. Even though Kenneth Walker has suffered injuries every year he's been in the NFL, that's the Seahawks guy. Like, they've shown that. Okay. Now, he's going into a contract year, so I think this is his last year on the Seahawks.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
but nonetheless, Kenneth Walker, former second-round pick, has unbelievable running ability and is extremely efficient and caught more passes out of the backfield this year. Now, they did change offensive coordinators. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan Grubbs went back to college. Bama?
Did he?
Bama? I don't remember where he went, but he went back to college, and they took Clint Kubiak is now the offensive coordinator in Seattle. I thought that was kind of weird. I really didn't think Ryan Grubbs did that bad of a job.
I think they wanted to run the ball more.
Well, I don't think Clint Kubiak's the guy to do that.
What do you mean? It's perfect for it.
Did you watch the Saints offense at all? Even when Spencer Rattler was the quarterback, I think he was throwing it 35 times a game.
I mean, to be fair, the Saints were in shambles regardless.
Yeah.
Ryan Grubbs is Alabama's OC.
Yeah. To me, that's a surprising change for him. I actually thought he did a pretty good job, but it is what it is.
I mean, Seahawks are going to Seahawks. That's kind of how that works.
Yep. So we are in C tier now?
The C tier, yes. Yes, we are.
All right. Who's your C tier? You haven't given names in a while.
Oh, I didn't even go over my B tier, but
Oh, okay. Yeah, my bad. We didn't do your B tier. That's right.
my B tier is David Montgomery, Alvin Kamara, Chase Brown, James Conner, Joe Mixon, CMC.
Okay.
You can mix those up any way you want. And Alvin Kamara, you can make the argument should be in the C tier. You can make the argument that Walker should be in the B tier, but at the end of the day, Walker, Charbonnet, same person to me, and that's why they're in the C tier, because my C tier is players that scare me, running backs that scare me that I cannot trust to do the job.
Oh, wait. Read your B tier again.
Montgomery,
Okay.
Kamara,
Yep.
Brown, Connor, Mixon, CMC.
Okay, so you have both Walker and Charbonnet in your C tier. Okay.
Yep.
I misunderstood what you said. I was like, I swear he didn't say Walker, but okay. I'm picking up what you're putting down now.
They're both there.
So, to me, I don't know. Like, if I was offered Chase Brown for any of those guys, I'm just taking that straight up.
Interesting. I have a few Chase Brown shares. We might
I have quite a few James Conner shares. Maybe we can make.
Oh, I know you do.
Yeah, James Conner, man, a lot of people were down on him last offseason, especially with Trey Benson coming in, him being hurt to finish the season last year. That's another one of those scenarios, like I was talking about with Kenneth Walker. Like, James Conner is just their guy. Like, that's who they're going to ride or die for. So yeah, I don't hate that. My C tier looks eerily similar to your B tier, so I'm just going to jump into that real quick. I named this the tier where these veterans should die on your roster, because at the end of the day, you're never going to get the value on the trade market for them that they will produce in your lineup. So it's Derrick Henry, David Montgomery, Joe Mixon, James Conner, and Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara was actually, I think, 5th in points per game last year in PPR leagues. I know a lot of that's elevated by like a 44-point game, but the fact that he still has the ceiling to do that at 29 years old.
Oh, never mind. I have 0 Chase Brown shares. Sorry.
Really?
I cut my leagues in half, so I know I had him, and I'm pretty sure he was in those other leagues. So
yeah, Chase Brown. I mean, Chase Brown's a risky buy, because I will at least admit that I see an avenue where the Bengals, because like I said, the draft chaos, love it. At least the Bengals can do that. I just don't think that he is. I just don't think that he is going to get replaced. I think that the Bengals just have too many other holes to fill. So I'm sure as Chase Brown owners are going to say, no, he's the guy. So it's kind of hard to go out and get him right now, but should name this a Chase Brown show. I don't think I've mentioned any one player's name on this show ever this much.
yeah, I mean, it's a big question mark.
But yeah, I've got the veterans that should die on your roster, and they're truthfully, like, at least for the next year, 2 at the most. There's nothing really wrong with these guys being your RB1 on your team. It's just you probably need to have a solid. You can't do hero running back strat with these guys as your RB1. It's just not going to work out.
Yeah.
So who's your C tier?
My C tier is J.K. Dobbins. Don't
Okay.
know where he's going to go. If he re-signs with the Chargers and they don't draft a running back, He instantly jumps up into my B tier. Would love to see it. But then we have Kenneth Walker, Charbonnet, Travis Etienne, which I think is a beautiful buy right now.
I traded for him in a league. I do think I agree. Even though I have him ranked low, I agree that Travis Etienne's a fantastic buy.
Yep. Brian Robinson, Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones, Tyrone Tracy as my honorable mention. He is my 25th running back.
Which is?
Hmm?
Which is?
Tyrone Tracy. He's my
okay. I thought you were saying Tyrone Tracy is 24 and your honorable mention was your 25th running back. I was like, you don't give us a name?
He's my honorable mention, but I 1,000% think the Giants go and get a running back, so he's going to have competition. So
a lot of our rankings seem to be in lockstep. I think we just tiered them differently because my D tier is Travis Etienne, Chuba Hubbard, Brian Robinson, Zach Charbonnet, J.K. Dobbins, and DeAndre Swift rounds out my top 24. But I have 4 other names right below him that, like, if you wanted to put them in there, that's fine.
You have Hubbard on your D tier?
I do.
Buddy, the disrespect.
Let me ask you something. Are you comfortable if Chuba Hubbard's your RB1 on your Dynasty?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have any Chuba Hubbard shares? We can make a deal.
No, I don't.
Damn.
Yeah, no, I don't. And I admitted I'm probably just too low on him, but I don't know entirely how much I trust the Panthers yet. I do think that they add more weapons in the passing game. I think Bryce Young takes a step forward. Again, Chuba Hubbard, if he does it again, he'll probably jump to, a tier, maybe even 2. But there's a reason that he was on their roster and they went out and drafted the first running back off the board last year. So that tells me, maybe this franchise doesn't have a ton of confidence in him anyway. Just moving forward, I would not be comfortable with him as my RB1. Any one of these running backs, I'm probably comfortable as my RB2, even Charbonnet, who I just basically said is a bench warmer throughout his career until Kenneth Walker inevitably gets hurt. But yeah, I think DeAndre Swift is kind of an underrated run. I think at this point, the market is so far overcorrected for DeAndre Swift that he is underrated.
I don't want anything to do with him until after the draft. So if you want to take the gamble, I think you can buy him extremely low right now. Mm-hmm. But they draft a running back, you're not going to be able to sell him.
I saw a mock that had, oh God, who did they have going? They had Omarion Hampton going to the Bears.
I would hate that.
That would be fantastic.
I would love it solely because I think Hampton has potential to be an outstanding running back. I think he is Javonte Williams before the injury. No relation to them both going to UNC. But the size, the build, the run, the ability
Hampton's
to get
probably bigger than Javonte was, yeah?
Might be a little bigger.
Yeah. To me, Hampton's David Montgomery.
A better David Montgomery?
He's probably a little bit quicker David Montgomery. David Montgomery has done everything well in his career, and I think even pass catching, and Omarion Hampton's basically the same thing.
I gotcha. But yeah, man, I love Etienne as a buy. I'm staying away from Walker and Charbonnet. J.K. Dobbins is interesting. Brian Robinson, I think the Commanders have to take a running back.
I don't think they have to. I think that they maybe take a day 3 pick, but again, I don't think Brian Robinson does anything that impresses me.
And to me, you got Henry Jones. They're just old. You're keeping them. You're dying with them. And then
Aaron Jones truly scares me.
Oh, yeah.
I want nothing to do with him. So I'll round out my top 24 again. S tier, I have Bijan and Gibbs. A tier, I have Taylor, H.M., Barkley, McCaffrey, Hall. B tier, I have Chase Brown, James Cook, Bucky Irving, Josh Jacobs, Kenneth Walker, Kyron Williams. C tier, I have Derrick Henry, David Montgomery, Joe Mixon, James Conner, Alvin Kamara. D tier, I have Travis Etienne, Chuba Hubbard, Brian Robinson, Zach Charbonnet, J.K. Dobbins, and DeAndre Swift.
Okay.
Who you got?
I got Bijan Gibbs in my S tier. My A tier is A-Chain, Taylor, Hall, Jacobs, Cook, Barkley, Irving, Hubbard, which is our biggest discrepancy here.
Mm-hmm.
And Kyron Williams. B tier is David Montgomery, Kamara, Chase Brown, Connors, Mixon, CMC. You love to have them, but at the same time, you can probably move on. And then C tier, which just scares me, J.K. Dobbins, Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet, ETN, Brian Robinson, Henry, Aaron Jones, honorable mention, Tyrone Tracy.
Let's talk about Genty and Hampton. I think there will be other running backs that come in and, depending on draft capital landing spot, come in and change the rankings. And we'll talk about that in August. Without knowing anything about landing spot or situation or draft capital, where do you have these guys in your top 24? Which tiers?
Oh, both those guys are in my A tier. Instantly, it doesn't matter. The talent is there. They are studs. They produce. And honestly, I would take them over. Literally everyone in my B tier, I'd take them over. And outside of A-Chain, Jonathan Taylor, oh man, I could even make that argument. You can make it. Yeah, outside of Bijan Gibbs and A-Chain, you can make an argument for both those guys.
I'm not as high on Hampton as you are. I think I'd put him in B tier, but I would put Genty in A. And to your point, outside of Bijan and Gibbs, even A-Chan, I'd be like, which back do I want? Because A-Chan's probably never going to see the volume that we project Genty will have due to the fact that A-Chan is built like a twig and Genty is not.
Built like a stick bug.
I saw another interesting comp for Omarion Hampton. Or no, this was Caleb Johnson, so we'll put that to the side. What do you think about this comp for Genty? Maurice Jones-Drew.
I heard that, but I think he's bigger.
I don't think he is. I think he's the same exact. I think Maurice Jones-Drew might have 10 pounds on him. I know they're both short and they run like bowling balls. It's kind of funny looking to watch them.
Run like bowling balls.
But yeah, I think Genty's the truth. I put up some smoke the other day in the league chat. I think you saw it in Bolton's league where I said somebody said something about McMillan at 102, and I said, who says McMillan falls to 102? Because I have the 101 in that league.
Oh yeah. You can do some crazy stuff for sure.
Oh yeah. The best part about having 101 is it can be whoever I want it to be.
Said you can have whatever you like. You know that song?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Wasn't sure how cultured you were.
Patron on ice. We can pop bottles all night, baby. You can have whatever you like. Now you're gonna have
What a way to end this show.
Yeah. Now you're gonna have me singing that all day. So
Good. Before you get off,
outside of Chuba Hubbard, sounds like we're fairly in lockstep, and we just tiered these a little differently. Like I said, I'm probably a little low on Chuba. I think you're a little high on Chuba. He's probably.
I think you let your Jonathan Brooks love get in the way there a little bit.
Well, I didn't have Jonathan Brooks anywhere on the list. He's not even in the 4 honorable mentions in my D tier. So
no, I know. I'm just saying, but if he was healthy, would he be?
Well, I mean, that's a completely different question. If he was healthy, he probably would have cut into Hubbard's workload all year, and then it would have been just a different conversation.
No, I mean when he came back, if he was I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if he didn't re-tear his ACL, the whole landscape of the Panthers running back room looks different. So there's no way to answer that question.
Okay.
But just for shits and giggles, I want to see something. You said before I get off, what was it? What?
Oh, I mean, your boys are playing in the Super Bowl today.
Oh, yeah.
I need your Super Bowl prediction.
28-17 Eagles. I see a lot of Eagles fans talking about like 38-20 something. I'm like, dude, they ain't putting up no 30 fucking points on the Chiefs defense.
I think it's a 31-24 Eagles. So
the Chiefs are, I know everybody talks about Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs are a good team. Like, Patrick Mahomes, a lot of the times this year, is not the reason they're winning games.
no, trust me, as a Denver Bronco fan, I have to deal with it twice a year.
Chuba Hubbard on our favorite website, Keep Trade Cut, is running back 15.
The disrespect.
For a guy with no career top 10 finishes, having him in the top 10 is kind of wild to me.
I have him at 10, so.
But, yeah, so 28-17. To me, the Eagles are going to do exactly what they do to other teams. They're going to pass the ball early to set up the run and let Saquon just hammer them into the ground late in the football game. I think it's a slow starting game. I think that, I'm thinking like 10-7 at the half, somewhere in there. I genuinely believe that this is a slow starting game that picks up in the third quarter.
Did you do any squares or anything?
No, not this year. I didn't. I actually only made, besides the Eagles winning bet by 5.5, the only other bet that I made was the coin toss. Like, I'm not live betting. I'm not like nothing, because I just want to sit and watch the game. I don't want to worry about the squares. I don't want to worry about none. Last time the Eagles won the Super Bowl, I was in Afghanistan. I missed the most famous play in Eagles history. I ain't missing that shit again. So I'm just going to sit on the couch and watch the game.
I'm not gonna lie. If the Eagles win by 6, I might go jump off a bridge.
See, that's why I did 5.5. You did 6.5. I did 5.5.
Oh, I'll cry. I'll legit just bust into tears. For those that don't know and that are listening and give two shits, I run the BS Sports bets here for BS Sports.
And you do a very good job, by the way. Shout out, man. You brought a huge aspect to the team, so you don't get enough credit for that.
Oh, thanks, man. I put $1,000 drunk on the Eagles to win by 6.5.
Well, hey, man, the last time I saw you make $1,000 bet, it hit. So,
yeah, I wish I had the boys around me.
Preseason game,
dude. If I could go 2 for 2 on $1,000 bets this year, I'll be pretty fucking happy.
Also, you need to go ahead, sack up, and just buy your Expo ticket, because Joey and I already did.
Who did?
Joey and I.
Oh, Joey already bought it?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I haven't talked to Joey in a minute.
Yeah, I already bought mine. Like, okay. I'm going.
We need to reserve the hotel room. That's more important.
Yeah, well, I would love to if you would commit to going.
I'm committing to going. Reserve the hotel room. Tell me how much money I need to send you.
All right, I'll lock down the hotel room. Do we want to do what? Do we want to do a separate room each, or I guess I'll look at the prices, because that hotel was kind of fucking nice.
Yeah, look at the prices. We'll talk.
Are you driving up?
Fuck no.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, if we stay at that hotel, that fucking poker place is like, it's only like what, 15 minutes? Not even.
Yeah, true. I would like to go to the casino and us just have a casino day.
Oh, the one down in Cincinnati?
Or we could go, there's one up.
There's a big Jack's in Cleveland. I've been there like quite a few times. I'm a member, actually.
Well, there we
go. But yeah, that one's like an hour away, so we could just like rent a car. Plus, I'm flying in on that Thursday, like I did last year. So all day Friday, we could fuck around and do whatever if you wanted to do it like that. But after the Expo that Monday, I'm not flying home. I'm flying to Toronto.
Oh, baseball?
Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, and I'll talk about more of this for baseball season, I am 7 stadiums away from accomplishing my all 30 stadiums before I turn 30. I have the West Coast trip lined up for Seattle, San Francisco, Oakland, RIP, LA Angels, and San Diego Padres. And then that would leave me the last 2 being Toronto and Miami. I live in Florida. I can clear Miami just about any weekend, but Toronto, seeing that I'll only be like an hour and a half flight away at that point, might as well go.
Yeah. But okay, I got a bunch of poker to play.
All right, man. I gotta nervously find something to do for the next 5 hours. Not 5 hours. I'll be at Bill's in 4. So.
Don't get too drunk. Fly, Eagles, fly. Did I do that right?
You said last week. You said last week. The only time you would say "Fly, Eagles, fly" was last week. You just said it again this week.
Oh, dude, I'm the biggest Eagles fan. I said it like 3 times yesterday at the market. The Eagles fans walking by.
So Dan tweeted this morning. Now it is what it is, but. Been around this city in New Orleans since Tuesday for the Super Bowl. My 2 big takeaways: the people of this city are awesome. Number 2, you can't be outside for 2 minutes without hearing a "Go Birds" or Eagles chant. And I would put the fan ratio at like 10-1 Eagles to Chiefs from what I've seen. Sounds about right.
Sounds about right. Wish you could have came up. Wish we could have went. It would have been a blast.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I'm going to scrounge every penny, hopefully for the next year and maybe go to an Eagles Super Bowl in person. But, we'll see. I thought that the Phillies in the late 2000s were going to be a dynasty too. And look what happened to that. So thank you for tuning in to another episode of BSing Sports, where we do a little BS and we talk a whole lot of sports. Go Birds.